So it's right there at the beginning of the New Testament. Mark 8, and I'm going to read 27 through 33. Jesus went out, along with his disciples, to the village of Caesarea Philippi, and on the way he questioned his disciples, saying to them, "Who do people say that I am?" They told him, saying, "John the Baptist," and others said Elijah, but others one of the prophets. And he continued by questioning them, "Who do you say that I am?" Peter answered and said to him, "You are the Christ." And he warned them to tell no one about him. He began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders and the chief priests and the scribes, and be killed, and after 3 days rise again. And he was stating the matter plainly, and Peter took him aside, began to rebuke him. But turning around and seeing his disciples, Jesus rebuked Peter and said, "Get behind me, Satan, for you are not setting your mind on God's interests, but man's." So I talked about being of a certain age and getting socks and underwear for Christmas. I'm also at that age where my kids now think that I know nothing about technology. And they're half right. We got a newer car just recently for various reasons, and I cannot for the life of me get Bluetooth to sync. So we set out in my driveway one day trying to figure this out, and it will sync, but it takes 20 minutes to get it to sync because we have to go through the settings and all that stuff. By the time 20 minutes comes around, I'm already at my job and back, so I don't really need Bluetooth. But we worked through it, and it just doesn't work for me, so it's not an option in my car anymore. But we're at that age where we have to work through this, and we have to always go back to the settings and always work through how to get things to work. You know how it is with technology. The kids just pick it up and just do it, right? I see a few gray hairs around. You guys know what I'm saying. It's hard to figure things out. It's not as intuitive as you would think it was. I can never get my remote to work. I can't get the Bluetooth to work. Those types of things. So how do we fix it? We go into the settings and we figure out the connection. So today, we're going to go into your settings for a minute and work through what this connection looks like between us and Jesus in our relationship with the Lord. I have a couple observations to make on Mark 8. Mark 8 is one of my favorite passages of Scripture. Most people probably don't spend a lot of time there, understood, but it is a very interesting interaction between Peter and Jesus Christ. I've never had that one-on-one, in-person, back and forth with Jesus. Obviously, I pray, but he's never come in and just asked me, who do I think he is? But Peter had this opportunity 2,000 years ago to talk about who do you think I am and work through this dynamic as we were transitioning from a lot of prophecies about Jesus and Jesus checking to see if those prophecies were truly perceived among his people. Peter said, "You are the Christ." When he said this, he knew exactly what he was talking about because Peter goes to Bible study. Peter goes to church. Peter talks to people about theology. Peter is a decent human being that believes in the Lord. So he says, "You are the Christ." To unpack that a little bit, what that means is you are almighty, you are eternal, you are creator. Jesus came back with, okay, here is my plan. I'm going to walk on earth, I'm going to die, be crucified, and I'm going to be risen again in 3 days. Peter says, no. Peter says, I don't want that. This is not my plan for you. This is not how I want it to go down. And then Jesus Christ comes back with, you are get behind me, Satan, basically saying you're the enemy of my plan. You are manifesting yourself as the devil. How do you think this went? Good? Not so good? Pretty bad. Terrible. The one chance Peter gets to be one-on-one with Jesus and talk about theology, and he blows it. My question to you today is, how would you help Peter? Peter had a bad day. Peter's coming home, and he sits down on the couch, and he's like, I had a talk with Jesus today. Didn't go well. He called me the devil. I don't know how he bounced back from this. So he's sitting on your couch. What do you say to him? How do you work through this with him? My point here with you is, this is the human condition. We all end up in this spot at some point. Hopefully it's not face to face with him and we blow it like Peter did. But we are made in the image of God. We are redeemed. We are reconciled. But we want to do things our way. Yes? We want to say, you are almighty, you are eternal, but that plan you got, no. I don't know. It's too much work. I don't want to do that. How about I just go about it this way? How about forget the suffering part. We just kind of hone in on the fact that you're God, and I'll do it my way. And this is where Peter was. Peter was a good man. Peter was a godly man, and Jesus built his church on Peter. He is the rock. He was the beginning of the church and how all that transition went about. But we find Peter here basically speaking from a position of his factory setting. What does that mean? Everybody probably has one of these, right? I like this, but honestly, it's a necessary evil. I tell my kids and my wife all the time when I retire, I'm going down to one phone, and it's going to be a jitterbug. I don't know, there might be a few of them around here. I don't want a phone that's smarter than me. I just need to text and call, and I'm getting a text right now. But we get these, and they come out of the box in a default setting. What's the first thing you do? You turn it on, you work through it, you put your name in it, you download your contacts, probably all of your pictures that you have, and all of your duplicate pictures that you have, and you customize it. You bring it up to speed to do what you want it to do. We have to take it from the default and customize it to get it to do what we need it to do. So Peter, as we see him in Mark 8, we see him in the default setting, the factory setting, and we see Jesus working with him to move him to customized so Jesus can use him for his plan. Part of that default setting in verse 33 here in Mark 8 is when Jesus says, "Get behind me, Satan." He says that because you're not setting your mind on God's interests, but man's. That word setting your mind is the word savor. I was up this morning. I had pulled pork for breakfast. Anybody else have pulled pork for breakfast? It's what you do on Sundays, right? I've been smoking pork all night. I got beans on the smoker for lunch and for tomorrow as well. But I was working through this, and there's just, certain parts of that pork butt that I just savor. I'm like chopping it up and dicing it up for the kids and the wife later. And, that's a good piece. I'm going to take that. It's got a lot of spice on it. I savor that. I'm just like, that's one for me, two for them, one for me. And I just savor that. And I love a good steak. I love good smoked pork. There's certain things that I savor. As you can tell, I eat well. I savor certain things. And that's what we do, is we get so locked into our daily routine and our comfort of how we want to do things, that we savor our interest instead of God's, and that's that factory setting. We dig in, and in this passage of Scripture, we see that Peter rebukes God and takes control back to tell God, the Creator, how he's going to do things. We become the enemy of God's plan, and then we're going to try to do it and say that this is all about God. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that factory setting, the default, and what that looks like later on in life. And if you will, join me in 1 Peter 1. First Peter 1, and I'm going to read verses 1 through 9. Peter, an apostle of Jesus Christ, to those who reside as aliens, scattered through Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, Bithynia, those who are chosen, according to the foreknowledge of God the Father, by the sanctifying work of the Spirit, to obey Jesus Christ, sprinkled by his blood. May grace and peace be yours in the fullest measure. Verse 3. Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, who according to his great mercy has caused us to be born again to a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, to obtain an inheritance which is imperishable, undefiled, will not fade away, reserved in heaven for you, who are protected by the power of God through faith for a salvation ready to be revealed in the last time. In this you greatly rejoice, even though now for a little while, if necessary, you have been distressed by various trials. So the proof of your faith, being more precious than gold, which is perishable, even though tested by fire, may be found to result in praise and glory and honor at the revelation of Jesus Christ. And though you have not seen him, you love him. Though you did not see him now, believe in him, you greatly rejoice with joy inexpressible, full of glory, obtaining the outcome of your faith, the salvation of your souls. So I talked about adding apps to your phone. You add apps to customize. You want a GPS, you add certain GPS to get guidance. You want to track your finances, you add certain apps to track your finances. You want to connect to people, you add certain social media. So you customize your phone for the purpose that you want to use it for. So this is how God customizes us for his purpose. We come to this as a default setting. I have been walking with God for now probably, 28, maybe 30 years now. And when I first began this trek, it was all about me. And because it was my human condition, it was all about what I wanted to do for God and how I wanted to go about serving him, and the things that it was kind of a barter back and forth as to, I'll do this if you do that, and I'll do. It's what we do when we're young and immature. I will tell you, 4 years ago, I always get it wrong, but I think it's 3 or 4 years ago, God picked us up we lived in Indiana, the state of Indiana, and through his sovereignty, just picked us up and put us in Troy, Pennsylvania. Who does that? It's been a very good thing, but at the time we knew nobody. We knew the area because Sarah's parents are from an hour away, but I knew 0 people from Troy. I knew 1 family in Bradford County. God picked us up and put us in Troy, which felt like a foreign country. It felt like you needed a passport to live up here. And we've managed to work through that and God has been very graceful to us, but he needed us for a certain purpose, and he changed our location and basically rewired our phones because he needed us for a certain purpose. In order to adjust your settings, God will not leave you in default mode. He does have a purpose for you, he is going to move you out of default mode and customize your settings. God uses trials and tests to adjust your settings. In verse 6 of 1 Peter 1, in this you greatly rejoice, even though for a little while, as necessary, you will be distressed by various trials. So the proof of your faith, being more precious than gold that is perishable, even though tested by fire, may be found to result in praise and glory and honor. This process of changing your default comes by way of trials, comes by way of tests. We all want to pray around them. As a younger believer, it was, God, please take this trial from me. As you get older and you work through with people and certain circumstances, you understand that the way to manage this trial is through it, and the way to manage it is to understand what God is doing in the midst of that trial. He is testing and proving your faith. And that proof of your faith, as you walk through it, he says, is more valuable than gold. The third observation I would say is it's all about your identity. In this world that we live in, and I don't want to say too much, but in this world that we live in, it is all about identity. It's all about who people identify as, what politics you identify as. Do you know why that is? It's because God so wants you to identify with him, and Satan knows that, and he has made it, he's going to do exactly, he's going to come into your life and try to make you identify with him so that it looks like you have this identity that you like. It's counterfeit. He knows that identity is so precious to God that God uses all his resources to identify you as a Christian, that Satan is going to come in and he is going to go after identity. Identity politics, how you identify with this, how you identify with that. It is all about identity. It's all about what you look like. Do you know why image is so important? It's so important because you are created as the image of God. You are created to be an image bearer, the Imago Dei. So Satan comes in and has a counterfeit image to pull you away and into the world to try to make it seem more comfortable. And that's why Peter was struggling with his identity and his image. And that's why God said, "Get behind me, Satan." Because, hey, you're acting like the counterfeit here. You're saying I'm God, but you don't want to follow my plan. And that's where we all, at some point, we all wrestle with that. It's all about identity. In verse 1, Peter says, I'm an alien. I'm a stranger. I'm chosen. He no longer says, I'm all that important that God's plan needs to be adjusted to me. He comes into his book that he's writing and says, I'm a stranger to this land. I don't belong here. God has chosen me and elected me for a purpose. Notice this is Peter writing his book. This is 25 years after he denied Christ, after he was told that he was being like Satan. God worked on him for 25 years and got him to the point where he sat down and wrote a book. His first statement is, I'm a stranger to this world. I'm chosen. Verse 2, based on the foreknowledge of God and his sanctification and obedience to him and grace, because I don't deserve any of this, God has chosen me and he knows me intimately and he's working me through obedience to be more like him. Verse 3, it talks about being blessed. We are born again, and we have this amazing hope in him, knowing that he's working all things to his good. Verse 4, we are heirs, not E-R-R-O-R, but H-E-I-R, an heir. We have an inheritance which is imperishable. We have an inheritance to the throne. We are the children of the King. And I don't know if you noticed this, but in verse 4, at the bottom of verse 4, reserved in heaven. We have a reservation in heaven to be heirs because we are born again unto his hope. And number 5, or verse 5, we are protected by the power of God. So we go from Mark 8 and Peter saying, you are the God, you are almighty, eternal creator, you are the Christ who's come to set up his church. And I don't like your plan, I'm going to do it my way, but you're God, but I'm still going to do it my way, to 25 years of being tested and proven and sanctified and uncomfortable, frankly, to getting to the point where he says, after all of this, I'm not of this world. I'm chosen out of this world to do God's work in his world. I'm in the world, but not of it. And I'm elected. I am sanctified. I am born again. I am a child of the King, and I'm protected by God. What a beautiful saying here at the bottom. See if I can find it. Verse 8. Believe in him, you greatly rejoice with joy inexpressible and full of glory. What a beautiful statement to know that you walk with the Lord, that you are serving God. There are people in your life that really don't understand why you do certain things. I've had people tell me, Brad, you walk to the beat of a different drummer. Like, yeah, I do. And that's because I pray and I know God is sovereign. Have you ever been called to do something specifically? Have you ever noticed that call is not a conference call? There's not a lot of people in the room that's not a party line. When God calls you to do something specific, he is calling you to test and to prove your faith because he has a purpose for you. I still sometimes have no idea why Troy. I don't hate Troy, but that was not on my bingo card, as they say. It was not in my plans. It was not in my 5-year plan. It took us by surprise. It frustrated us. We sit on the back porch. We cried about it. We prayed about it. We worked through it because it was disruptive to our kids. It was disruptive to us. But looking at it 3 years in, God has tested us. God has proven our faith. We have failed in many situations. In many situations, we have done very well. And God is moving us closer to him and helping us to understand that joy inexpressible. My wife asked me 3 or 4 years ago, what do you think is next? And I said, honestly, I threw my pen away. I used to write it all down. I literally would write it all. I had a list of all the things I wanted to accomplish. When God moved in and pulled us out of my home, literally out of my grandma's home in where I grew up from Indiana to Troy, I'm not writing this anymore. It's not me. I'm not the author of this. I am here because I am been chosen to be here. I am working through this. And I am working through the situation that God has us through with joy inexpressible. When your mind is set on God's plan, you can see his hand and you can understand his heart, and you no longer want to do it my way. You no longer want to be in control and telling God how it will be done. My questions to you today, after working through this, is every day, you get up and you have a choice. Am I going to be a Mark 8 believer, or am I going to be a 1 Peter 1 believer? Am I going to declare God but do it my way, or am I going to understand who I am in his chosen plan? What would you say to Peter? What kind of conversation would you have with him in Mark 8? Because we all have friends that are working through their Mark 8 experience. We all work through it occasionally. Just because you and I have a little more gray hair or maybe a little less on top than we used to, it doesn't mean that we're exempt from the Mark 8 experience, because we can get up and just be like, nope, don't want any part of that. I've did my time. I don't want to go through this again. But God may be calling you for a specific purpose, and it's not a conference call. Have you ever been in that situation of Peter in Mark 8? Again, this is a daily choice to be a Mark 8 believer or a 1 Peter 1. Will you set your mind on sovereignty and holiness and grace? Will you be remembered as a Mark 8 believer who proudly declares God, yet refuses to allow God to be God? Or will you put your feet on the floor every day and allow God to work all things together for his good? It has been a pleasure to be here. It's only my second time, but I enjoy being here. This reminds me of the church that I grew up in, Linville, Indiana. Linville, Indiana, you've probably never been there, and I don't advise it. It's a great place to grow up, more cows than people. But we had a church very similar to this. I pray for you. I'm glad things are working out for you. If I can ever do anything to help you along, I'd be happy to do so. So thanks for having me.